But first, of course, if you've never been here for the news before, I'd like to say you're in for a treat, but honestly, it's not up to me. Hopefully you enjoy what we're about to do. Let's do the news. Our top story today is the 7th anniversary celebration of our video game of World of Warships. And there's a bunch of interesting content coming, but before we talk about that, let's take a look at this. I don't always cover changes to test ships because for most players, test ships don't exist. They're not real. This is total tomfoolerishness, but you guys know that I am interested in Álvaro de Bazán, and what I'm interested in today's news is this is a buff. Now, what that usually means is that Álvaro is underperforming. They're buffing it because it's not good enough, but I'm just glad that it's getting a little buff. The main battery reload time is coming from 7 seconds all the way down to, well, 6.6. It's not the biggest buff I've ever seen. And the burst fire reload is also being reduced by 5 full seconds. So those are actually 2 reasonable buffs that are going to affect the DPM of that destroyer. Dalarna started out really strong. In fact, I don't remember what its original reload time was, but it is getting a buff from 3 down to 2.8 seconds. I think it was like 2.2 or something. It was pretty darn low, but I'd have to go review the dev blog to be sure. The European destroyer Velos, the first Greek ship in the game, is coming in, and it is having a main battery reload time increase. That makes it a nerf. We're going from 2.2 to 2.5 seconds, and the detectability is coming up from 6.9 to 7.1. Now remember, these numbers, when we talk about detectability by sea, this is before we take into account things like the captain perk or modules and things like that. We used to talk about camouflage, but that is all now baked into the game, and you no longer get a camouflage buff, a detectability buff from camouflage. We've got American cruiser Vellejo is getting a main battery time reload time increase, which again is a nerf, 5 to 5.5 seconds. And then this is actually a really nice buff that we're getting for Hampshire. So Hampshire is a British premium cruiser that's coming out. It's got a 15.7 kilometer range right now, but they're buffing that out to 16.8, which I think puts it pretty much on par with like the base range of like Goliath. Which you'd be able to extend with things like that. I don't really know a ton about the configuration of Hampshire, but there it is. It's getting a little range buff, and I like buffs for cruisers being out beyond 16 kilometers. So I'm a fan of what's going on there. Our next story is actually kind of a big deal. It is the new Japanese light cruiser line. Normally, on a normal night, I would say this is our top story, and we talk about something else first, and then come back to talk about the new Japanese light cruisers. However, the 7th anniversary event is a big deal, and it's got all kinds of crazy stuff. So I kind of went back and forth as to which one of these stories was a bigger deal than the other. So here we are. We're talking about the new Japanese light cruiser line. It says these are medium range ships with a good firing range starting from tier 8. A large number of main battery guns. In fact, I think there's a ship on this list that has 18 main battery guns. I think things like Plymouth or Mecklenburg have 16 guns, but I don't think we have anything right now that has more than 16. These ships are also armed with torpedoes that have high damage and range, and they enjoy good ship concealment. Tier 5 and 6 ships have 152 millimeter guns. Tier 7 has 155s. You might remember 155 as the millimeterage of the Mogami's smaller guns. So I'm hoping that Tier 7 ship is kind of interesting. And the high tier cruisers are armed with 150s. That sounds pretty good. Starting from tier 6, the hydroacoustic search or defensive AA fire consumables are available to choose from, and the fighter is available in a separate slot. So that is pretty cool. Brand in the chat says, step aside, Smolensk. Maybe. I mean, I really don't know. We're going to have to see. For tiers 9 and 10, you'll also have a repair party consumable, and I'm really glad to see that. At high tier, we're going to need a repair party. We got some great pictures in here. Yodo is a large light cruiser with a unique composition of main battery. 18 dual purpose 150 millimeter guns. Now, when we talk about dual purpose, we're talking about AA as well as main battery, as well as anti-ship, in other words. So I suspect these are going to have pretty decent anti-aircraft as well. Just Make here says, interesting turrets. I wonder how the plating will be on those. I wonder how thick the plating will be. Yeah, for sure. Yodo is either going to be called the YOLO. It's already been nicknamed the Yoda. I saw that on the official stream where they announced this the other day. On the NA stream, they talked about the Yoda. You seek Yoda. That's what it's gonna. That's what people are gonna say when we're trying to get up to tier 10. Jackal says tier 5 is the same class as the tier 5 premium Yahagi. You know what? I looked at this back end here. This little bit of superstructure here on the back reminded me of Yahagi, but I didn't say anything about it. That's so funny. Thanks, Jackal, for pointing that out. So I'm not the only one who thinks that. And obviously, it sounds like you've done some research. There's also a tier 8 premium, the Tokachi. This has kind of a cool looking camo on it. I think this could be an interesting ship. A project to refit the Furataka class. That's the current tier 5 cruiser in the Japanese heavy line, giving it rapid fire 127s. Now, Furataka has, I think, 203s on it. This has 127 dual purpose artillery with a high muzzle velocity, placed in 6 twin gun turrets, so 12 guns on Tokachi. We've also announced the German cruiser Admiral Schroder for tier 9. The project of this ship was based on an idea from the late 1920s regarding the creation of a high-speed battle cruiser with 305mm guns and relatively weak armor. I like the idea of a little German battle cruiser with 305s. That could be kind of fun. Kind of a super Scharnhorst, maybe? I don't know. And of course, the camo on this looks nice. Looks like 2 turrets up front, 2 barrels apiece. Hard to see how many are out back. I don't know if it says, but we'll have the stats down below. We'll peek. It's well suited for combat at medium ranges due to its decent survivability. Not bad for a cruiser. Not bad for a cruiser armor. Oh my gosh, this is a cruiser. I thought this was a battleship. Okay, so this fits more in like with a very heavy cruiser line. Well, that's interesting. Okay. Cruiser has good concealment. It's able to quickly change flank and take the desired position because it has an engine boost with improved characteristics. So it's not just going to be the basic 8% engine boost. It's going to be a better one. Very interesting stuff. We also have Sekiryu, which is a Japanese super carrier. This thing looks kind of cool if you're a carrier person. This cool stack over here with this interesting rake looks really rad. We've also got a super Russian battleship, the Admiral Ushakov, a large ship with a displacement of over 100,000 tons with 9 457mm guns. It follows the Kremlin in the tech tree, has many features of its predecessor. So she's going to be a slow and tanky ship with 457s. We'll click on the ship's parameters here. We'll roll down here. Let's take a look at Yodo real quickly. We've got a lot of news to cover, so I can't really take a look at every single ship. Yoda's going to have 55,000 hit points. Interestingly, that's more than Zhao, and there was quite the uproar about it in the official stream chat the other day. People were pretty spicy about this. At the end of the day, guys, Zhao got a recent buff. I think it's unlikely they're going to give it more. I want Zhao to get an armor buff, to get a hit point buff, to get something. Armor would be better than hit points, I think, for Zhao. And so Yodo's coming out. It's going to be a newer ship. It's going to be different. We'll have to kind of wait and see how these ships interplay together and how they play against each other. And remember, these new ships are going into testing. This is not the final configuration. We could see Yodo get nerfed. We could see Yodo get buffed. I don't know. We'll have to see. But as it starts right now, it's going to have more hit points than Zhao. 25mm plating. 30-second fires, which is pretty standard for a cruiser. 6 turrets, 3 barrels apiece, 150mm, 18 kilometers. And here's something that I found really interesting when we were talking about these ships during the main stream the other day. 930 meters per second initial velocity. So 150s that can go 930 meters per second, at least as they leave the barrel, and at a range of 18. Now, we don't know what the shell drag is going to be, and this is something Boggsy mentioned. The shell drag really affects shell speed over the long haul, and so we'll have to wait and see what that's going to be. I don't believe it's here in these specifications, so your guess is as good as mine there. I'm hoping that these shells stay pretty fast, and that it becomes an easy ship to get lots of hits on. With it having as many guns as it does, though, I could see a situation where they're going to have it have slightly slower shells, or shells that are going to slow down over travel, which is going to make it a little less accurate so that you can't fire spam somebody to death quite so Smolenskly. Tokachi's in here as well. I'm going to leave you guys to check out Tokachi, and we'll skip, although I think it's interesting, but I want to skip down just in the interest of time and talk about Admiral Schroder, and I'll include links to all of these articles in the description if you're watching this later on YouTube, so you can check those out. 59,000 hit points for the cruiser Admiral Schroder, 27mm plating, 60-second fires because it's a super cruiser, 8 305mm guns with an 18.4 kilometer range. HE pen is 76 mils, so that is the quarter pen that we expect from Germans. 850 meters per second on the HE initial velocity. Decent sigma of 2.05. Ooh, what's the sigma on Yodo? Sigma's also 205 on Yodo at the moment, so pretty decent. Starting out strong. Hopefully that doesn't wind up getting nerfed. AA damage here is let's see, 3, 4, but it's a little bit lighter on Schroder than it is on Yodo, but it's a tier 9, and it doesn't have millions of dual-purpose guns, so that's pretty reasonable. Well, there we go. Those are our new ships. There's a lot to read here. If you guys want to get into a detailed analysis of each of these, I will. Like I said, I will post that link, and you guys can go check these out yourselves. I definitely recommend doing that. Pretty excited about a new line to the game, and we haven't had a lot of IJN love in a long time. So this is pretty cool. I'm excited to see Yodo come out and how it's going to perform when it finally does arrive. Let's go to our next story. The World of Warships 7th anniversary celebration. We've got all kinds of stuff because when the birthday of the game comes around, there's a lot of great opportunities for us to do fun missions, earn cool things like permanent camos, and even a whole collection and everything. So let's check this out. We do have our new collection here. It looks like it is called the 7 Seas container. This is the 7th anniversary of World Warships, so they had to go with a 7 Seas collectible container thing. So we do have a 7 Seas collection that's in here. They've got some great art for it, as always. The reward for completing the entire collection is 3 Distant Voyages containers, a commemorative flag, and an achievement. We do have this 7 Seas permanent camouflage. Unfortunately, this year we're only seeing this come out for 3 ships, Mahan, Endroct, and Sinop. Whereas last year I think you could unlock like 6 permanent camos. So not quite as much there in terms of camouflage prizes that we can get. However, we do have some captains and a flag we can get. We have mermaid and merman captains, and I really hope these have custom voices, but I don't think it says in here. If you guys saw where it said it, I might have missed it. But we do have some custom captains coming out, as well as a cool mermaid flag. Let's see. Yes, it is Aquaman. They call the captain the Master of the 7 Seas, and I believe Aquaman was called the Ocean Master, which I remember watching that movie and being like, seriously, you didn't call him Master of the Ocean? Even that sounds better than Ocean Master. But, you know, I wouldn't tell Jason Momoa to his face that he has a dorky title. He seems like a nice fellow. Let's see, what do we got down here? Updated operations. Now, a lot of you are probably interested in this. In update 0.11.8, we have updated all operations in our game so that players can participate in operations on more of their favorite ships and earn valuable rewards. Now, tiers 6 through 8 will be able to go into battle at the same time. And the final composition of the team going in will affect the strength of the bots and the post-match earnings. So in other words, if you have more 8s, it's going to be harder. If you have more 6s, it's going to be easier. In addition, the fee for re-entering battles on the same ship will be removed, so that's kind of cool. Although I think that's going to result in a lot of Weimar spam, isn't it? What do you guys think? The economics of operations are also going to change. Previously, after completing an operation, a player earned a variable number of stars based on performance. The rewards could only be received once. Now the stars will be removed entirely, and the rewards can instead be earned by completing special daily and weekly combat missions specifically designed for operations. Oh, that's kind of cool, I think. I guess it depends on how the missions and the rewards come out. Right now, the rewards in some of those some of the operations are very, very good. They could be worse after this. Shrug. I don't know. I'm not a big operations player, so for me, this isn't a huge impact. But I know that there are a lot of players who are super interested in it. Yeah. So we're going to see those changes to operations. Here's something that I think is really interesting. The reload mechanic changes. The reloading mechanics when switching a shell type have changed. Now, when switching shell types with the gunfeeder commander skill, the loading of the new shell type will be accelerated even if not all main battery guns have finished loading, which was required previously. This is huge. It really boosts the capability of that gunfeeder commander skill, and some of our commanders are premium or special or unique commanders, and they are even better. Seasoned or unique, those are the right words. They're either seasoned or unique commanders. And those guys are going to be even better with the gunfeeder, the upgraded version of the gunfeeder commander skill, because you don't have to wait till all your guns are reloaded all the way in order to enjoy the benefit of this. So battleship captains rejoice. This is for all you slow reloading gun ships. I think that's going to be a really nice thing. Shells now have a new parameter, shell change time. If the current reload of the gun is higher than this parameter, the shell type switch won't affect the gun reload time. Hang on, if the current reload time is higher than this parameter. If the current reload time is less than the shell change time, then when switching shell type, the reload time will become equal to the shell change time. That sounds backwards. Hang on, I gotta... If the gun... here's an example. Let's see if the example helps us. So it says, for example, let's take a gun with a base reload time of 30 seconds. With the gun feeder skill, the shell change time is 18 seconds. If the gun has 20 seconds left to reload when switching shell types, the reload time will be 20 seconds. If the gun has 5 seconds left, the reload time when reloading will take 18 seconds. Okay. And this is still better for players. So that means that if your gun time had 20 seconds to reload, but your reload time is 18, instead of saying hitting the button and having that gun do a full 30-second reload, it'll be 20. If it has 5 seconds left, listen, we're not going to make it a 5-second reload. We're going to make you go all the way back to 18, but that's still better than 30, is what that means. Okay, we got it. We figured it out, folks. I hope that makes sense to you guys. It makes sense to me. This mechanic is applied to each turret separately. Now it says turret, not gun, so that's probably something to be aware of as well. But that's okay, because you don't fire turret guns individually, right? Like, that's not going to happen. Can you translate the English to American English? Yeah, no, I think it is as the example explains. But really, what's going on is you never have a 30-second reload when you do that. It's not going to be like super fast ever, because that's going to keep people from cheesing it. I think this makes sense, and it was a necessary ruling in there. Yep. Okay, moving on. We do have a brawl coming up in 11.8. We're going to have 4 brawls. The first one is September 9th through 12th. 3v3. Oh my gosh, what? 3v3 tier 8 aircraft carriers? It's only tier 8 CVs? Okay. That's just like a death to pilots kind of scenario. Am I reading that right? The next brawl is going to be all tier 8 battleships, 12v12. And then all cruisers, and then all destroyers. Well, that's kind of fun. Just doing all the crazy classes against each other, all tier 8s. That is going to be after the clan battle season as well, at least after it started. I think clan battles will probably still be running. I think it runs through... Does it run through the beginning of October? I don't know. It runs for a while. But yeah, we might be burned out on tier 8s by then. I don't know that that's the tier I would have picked, but I like where your head's at, guys. That's wacky. Okay, the Sea Lord permanent camouflage is going to be available for on-halt. This is a picture of it. This is big news for cat lovers all over the internet. Unsinkable Sam is becoming a commander, and I hope that he has a custom voice pack where he just meows differently when stuff is going on. Torpedo meows to the right. The ship is on meower. I can't think of any more right now. We're holed below the waterline and we're meowing quickly. Good game, meow everyone. Welcome to the party, pal. Oh no, Captain Flynn said, yeah, this guy, that's what pushed you over the edge. That's why we got the follow. Thanks, Captain Flynn, for the follow. Anyway, I think the Unsinkable Sam Camo is going to be great. And then they've got updates to the ship lists for the tier 6, 7, and 8 containers, as well as the super containers. And it looks like it says new ships have been added. I will click on these briefly, although I recommend checking these out yourself if you'd like to. Baron and Repulse are added to the tier 6 premium ship container. That's cool. Karl von Schoenberg, less so. Maya and FR25. So Maya's good, FR25, not very popular. And then we have Rochester in big font. So well, let's put the Rochester in there in a bigger font for some reason. And then we're adding these to the tier 8 as well. Scott wants to know, what is less popular, FR25 or Karl von Schoenberg? I bet it's FR25, but I don't actually know. Well, guys, with that, I think the news is over. I thank you for being a part of it, and I hope you had a great time. If you're watching this on YouTube later, why don't you come hang out with us on Twitch? We'd love to have you. Twitch.tv/ClydePlaysLive. Of course, if you're watching it on Twitch right now, we are going to go back and play more World of Warships. I was supposed to start a giveaway before we did the news, and I forgot. Hopefully you'll forgive me. Goodbye!
This has been the news on Clyde Plays Live.